Phil Egan is with us in studio. Nathan is with us as well. Good morning to you both. Nathan on commentary duty for us tonight alongside Stewie Byrne. Phil, where do you stand on the James McCarthy issue? Is it his fault? Is it the system? Is it a little bit of both?
I think it's a little bit of both, but actually, thinking back to James McCarthy's best performances for Ireland, there was that time where himself and Glenn Whelan were in the team together, but actually McCarthy's best performances were without Glenn Whelan, where he was the main man at the base of that midfield, breaking things up. But yeah, sometimes we do look at what he's not doing rather than what he does do. That because some players that play in the base of midfield spray passes left to right, that James McCarthy's not doing that, or he's not coming demanding the ball on the half turn looking to pick out passes. That he's more of a player that breaks things down. So that's what he's going to have to do tonight. It'll be interesting to see who Stephen Kenny puts in there with him. I think we're all pretty much expecting that Jeff Hendrick gets the nod, whether it's Conor Howrahan or Robbie Brady. I think something that Stephen Kenny obviously has to think about tonight as well is what team he wants on the pitch to finish the game. He's got 5 substitutes. That's something that not many managers get afforded, because obviously this is just something that has come into the game with COVID-19, that he has the option. So maybe that's why he might go for someone like Howrahan to start, because he thinks Brady could offer something more coming off the bench. He might make more of an impact. But going back to James McCarthy, I think I'm surprised. I wasn't sure we'd ever see him in an Ireland jersey again, given his injury history. Obviously got back into the Crystal Palace team. He's now keeping Luka Milivojevic out of the Palace team. So you've got McCarthy and MacArthur that play in it too, which suits McCarthy's game a bit more. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. And my slight concern is the back four, which we know what the back four is going to be, but 3 of that back 4 are used to playing in a 5. And like playing as a fullback, or Matt Doherty and Enda Stevens, and a wing back, 2 completely different positions. Like I always played as a fullback, but there was a few games where I got to play as a wing back. So much more enjoyable. It takes away a lot of the defensive responsibility.
What does that say about you, Phil? You're like, nah, that defending's for somebody else.
No, because what would happen is if you were a right full, the centre halves were talking to you to basically cover them.
Bossing you, yeah.
Whereas if you're the wing back, okay, you still have to get back, but the
you
main...
blame somebody else if something bad happens.
Yeah, well, say for example, John Egan plays in a 3 at Sheffield United, so usually obviously he has Basham and O'Connell on either side. Now obviously they've had injuries, but they're the players that are going to cover if he's out of position. Whereas if he's got Shane Duffy beside him and Stevens and Doherty are bombing on, then he has less cover. So that's my slight concern, that Duffy's the only one that really plays in an orthodox back 4. Obviously Doherty has joined Spurs, but he's had so little amount of game time that it's, he hasn't really adapted to it yet. So we've talked about, would Stephen Kenny ever play a 5 at the back? It seems like
Vinnie Perth said he would this morning. That was really interesting. So we had a brilliant chat with, if people haven't heard this yet, go back and check out Vinnie Perth talking to us a little bit earlier on. We'll put the podcast up separately on the football show stream, so OTB Football. He was saying that absolutely, that having worked with Stephen Kenny is not somebody who will only do the one thing ever, that it's about the players available to him. They played that particular style at Dundalk because of the players that they had available to him. They had a list of number 10s over the years that would allow the team to play with the midfield structure and the back 4 that they had, asking the fullbacks to bomb on, because you had responsible central midfielders. If the Ireland team don't have that, given time to bed in and an opportunity to practice, then we should expect at some point that we will at least try 3 centre backs, 5 at the back.
No, but it ticks so many boxes in terms of, it gets Doherty and Coleman into the team. This is providing everybody's fit. It then solves the problem of Aaron Connolly and David McGoldrick, because both can play down the centre, and it gives you a bit more protection in midfield. But yeah, this is the problem Stephen Kenny has, that he would have presumed he was taking over in September and he was going to use the Nations League to fine-tune things before a World Cup qualification campaign. But now he has the pressure of this game, where Irish fans are not going to be that forgiving if things don't go well tonight. But Stephen Kenny, it's such fine margins. If Ireland were to win tonight and then finish the job off against Bosnia or Northern Ireland, then Stephen Kenny may never look back. It could just take off, and we could be talking in 2 years about how this Slovakia game was the turning point, and even though it's only his 3rd game.
Nathan, the the issue of the number 10 and the midfield, like, it was a really interesting conversation we had earlier, because all of a sudden you're thinking, actually, I can completely see why he's picking Robbie Brady in the team, and also how suddenly McGoldrick fixes the Aaron Connolly issue. If you want to play Aaron Connolly through the middle, you can do that, and then he's your number 9 essentially. Okay, slightly left-leaning, but you're a bit like the manager. Your number 10 is David McGoldrick, and that's a perfect role for him.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was those two as the 9 and 10 tonight. I'm not sure Robbie Brady will play, simply because I'd imagine Stephen Kenny's learned his lesson from the last 2 games where you need everybody fully fit. And Robbie Brady's played, less than a half of football in the Premier League since the restart. He's had another little niggle. But I would have thought, all going well, both Brady and Hendrick would be certainties to start because of their own relationship, because of the positions they can fill and the energy they bring to the side. So the big decision he faces tonight is, does he stick with the 4-3-3 that by and large didn't work, you'd have to say, against Bulgaria and Finland, or does he revert to a 4-2-3-1? That is the big tactical decision that he's going to have to decide on tonight. The huge benefit to the latter is obviously that it gets somebody in alongside James McCarthy. And the problem was twofold probably in Bulgaria for McCarthy. Firstly, the players weren't fit. Callum Robinson said on Monday he was probably at 75% going into those games. So there'll be a different type of energy to the performance for starters, and then you throw in the importance of it. But also, and the concern I would have if they're going with a 3 again, is just the lack of structure and the lack of time they've had on the training pitch together. They barely had a session this week. Almost a dozen of these players played on Sunday. They came in, they had a light run around, they had a chat, they had a tactical session, but they haven't spent time as a 3, if it was, say, his preferred 3 of Hendrick, Howerton and McCarthy. They haven't spent a week on the training pitch, been drilled into them, and that's what it looked like in Bulgaria. You could tell he wanted McCarthy to be a fulcrum of everything. Get on the ball as often as you can. But Shane Duffy wasn't sure when to give it to him. He was picking it up at times when he shouldn't have. When he did get it, he's looking around. There's nobody within 10, 15 yards of him. These are all the things you need if you're playing that sort of midfield 3. You need a whole lot of energy and people to be close together. And I think that comes from organisation. You look at the best teams that play with 3 in the middle. The obvious one would be Liverpool right now. It's all energy. Fabinho sits at the base, which is exactly what he would like James McCarthy, I'm sure, to do. Raises the question, does he have the energy to get across and cover the full backs like Fabinho does so brilliantly, generally? Maybe not so much the other night, but generally covers Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, and particularly that game against Arsenal when you watched him. He's across. Does James McCarthy have the defensive know-how to do that? Does he have the legs right now to do it? So that's a reason for putting somebody in. To be honest, I don't know what he's going to do. And I'd imagine he made a decision quite quickly after the last 2 games, but we haven't seen, it's been a very strange week. Like, we haven't really seen the players at all because they came in, did one light session, and then they were gone on Tuesday. So it does feel as though the 4-2-3-1 would be the wiser one. The lack of Arthur, Malumbi not playing game time probably isn't ideal, so it does mean it's either Howerton or Hendrick in there alongside him. But I would be concerned of just going in with... I think Hendrick plays no matter what. Hendrick will 100% start this game. So
sorry, I thought you meant it as they both play and one goes beside James McCarthy. Who would you be picking as James McCarthy's partner in the 2 there?
I would go along with Vinny in some ways, with Hendrick alongside McCarthy. It just feels then you're looking at an incredibly attacking and exciting front 4 of McGoldrick behind Connolly, probably Robinson on one side, and then is Callum O'Dowd fit? I'm not quite sure. Unless you go with Adamida through the middle, Dave McGoldrick behind, Connolly on the left, Robinson on the right.
No. That's where he starts Robbie Brady. You've got 5 subs. Robbie Brady's not match fit. You give him an injection in the ribs. It's a pain tolerance thing, and he plays 45 minutes and sees how he goes, and he gets 50, 55 minutes, and then you bring on somebody. And at that stage, if you're 1-0 up, you probably bring on James McLean. If you're 1-0 down, you bring on O'Dowda.
Possibly. Now, O'Dowda hasn't played any football, so he may suffer for that. And maybe that's what you do. And listen, Robbie Brady, we saw in the game against Finland, he cares too much. Like, he was running around like a headless chicken in that game for large parts, trying to make an impression, trying to do the right thing. He did some brilliant things. He provided a bit of a spark, but also like careless at times, just taking on things that weren't on. So yeah, maybe it is Robinson on the left, Connolly through the middle, McGoldrick just behind, and Brady there. And as you said, Brady sort of tucking in. good awareness of what Doherty might do up that right-hand side as well. But they just need the cover, because like there are questions about Doherty defensively. They're there at Tottenham. We saw them play Newcastle with Brian Kerr on commentary when he's in a one-on-one 50-50 with Joe Linton. And Joe Linton wins it. And Doherty sort of throws his eyes to heaven right in front of the technical area. Throws his eyes to heaven, throws his arms in the air, and does this slow jog back. And Mourinho is on the edge of his technical area, 5 feet away from him, blasting him to get back. That you get away with that at Wolves because they've got 3 centre halves. You don't get away with it at Ireland, and you don't get away with it. You don't get away with it at Spurs now either. So, yeah, it's very difficult to know what to expect.
Just on that idea of playing like a 2 up front with a number 10 behind them, does that impact how we might actually be approaching things in the flanks though? Like I accept that it was disappointing enough when, in terms of how we saw Matt Doherty link up with Callum O'Dowda or with Callum Robinson on the right flank. Stevens and Aaron Connolly were a bit better, but they weren't amazing either in terms of linking up on that left flank. I accepted the full-backs have been pushing up and in good positions, but what they've actually been doing in the final third probably hasn't been what we expected. Now, maybe that's just because they're full-backs rather than wing-backs, but I definitely think there's a bit more cohesion that needs to be found on both of those flanks. And if you go to a front 2 with a 10 behind them, you're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater on that whole plan.
Yeah, and I just don't know if we have, because if you're going with a front 2 and a number 10 behind,
we're not doing that.
You're going with a 3 in midfield, which means you're going with, again, Hendrick, Howerton and McCarthy, and I don't think the full-backs can get forward if that's the midfield 3, because hang on,
can I just explain that? Owen, who do you think would be that front 2 and a 10?
Well, what Nathan said, it's just, what did you say, Nathan? McGoldrick in the playing behind.
So McGoldrick's the 10 in that role?
It'd be a kind of a withdrawal number 9, really, wouldn't it? Behind Connolly and McGoldrick. Is that what you're saying? Like that was just in response to what you said there?
I'm saying it's basically a 4-2-3-1. So you'll have if it's Brady on the right, Robinson on the left, or McLean on the left, and then McGoldrick playing in behind Aaron Connolly. Or you play Connolly on the left to play Ida up front. So McGoldrick's your 10, dropping back, as he did brilliantly for Sheffield United against Arsenal at the weekend.
I think actually that makes it, certainly the way Billy Perth explained it to us, made a lot of sense this morning, I thought.
There's another way, obviously, if you play the 4-3-3 and you've got, say, OK, we've got Connolly on the left and we'll say a Callum on the right, whether it's Callum O'Dowda or Callum Robinson. But McGoldrick obviously likes to drop. So what that does, if you're the Slovakian defence, you got to decide, do you go with them? If you do, that obviously creates space for Connolly and Robinson or O'Dowda to get in behind. But also, if they don't drop, then McGoldrick has a ton of space on the ball, and we know he's creative. He can pick a pass. So I kind of like, that's where I think the balance works when you play 3 in attack, where obviously Connolly and Robinson are both playing centrally at the moment with their clubs. So they can drift in, and obviously they're the 2 players I would like to see in the penalty area, because they're the 2 that are firing goals in. McGoldrick took his goal well the other day against Arsenal, but I think tonight is going to be a massive night for Aaron Connolly. I think we obviously saw the potential with him with the 21s. He was the one that got us really excited. Mick left him on the bench for that game in Tbilisi. He came off and we kind of thought, why wasn't he thrown on earlier? But I think tonight could be the night that he announces himself on the senior stage.
The kiss of death from you and Shane Hannon, both saying, Shane Hannon went as far as saying he's going to score tonight. No pressure now.
I still think he's very raw, and I've watched a lot of Brighton at the start of the season. Listen, his pace getting in behind causes any amount of problems, and I hope he's given that opportunity. He gets those balls where he can actually put the pressure on and stretch his legs. I just find when he's in that central position for Brighton, his runs quite often, he's jinking this way and that way, and he's not getting involved in the game as much as you want. His hold-up play probably isn't quite where it should be just yet. He is very young, and maybe you need a night like this where you become that superstar and you bring all the confidence. But I think there's too often he's just not impacting the game enough. But he's working with a manager who has a lot of faith in him now, who knows him from 21, who should know how to get the best out of him. And like playing through that middle, he does like to drift out to the left-hand side. You would fear that if that does happen, if he starts drifting to the wings, like, is Dave McGoldrick going to be in the right position? Like, that's something you see with Sheffield United all the time, that McGoldrick drops so deep that if the striker goes out to the wing, there's nobody there. There's too much ground for McGoldrick to catch up. So we do need an attacking threat as well.
But that's why Colin Robinson should be. That's why that's a good trio. Like if we stick with the 4-3-3, that's actually, you can see how that would work, because when one drops deep, the other is ready to make the run, and there should be some level of understanding from Colin Robinson about how McGoldrick actually plays and what they're looking for. Look, a lot of this is assuming that we're on the ball quite a lot. The other thing that Vinnie Perth said was that Slovakia had 60-odd%, close enough to 70% possession in both their last two games, and that actually there were times when they were with Dundalk that they would go away and they would be pragmatic. So I wouldn't be terribly surprised if this was a Mick McCarthy-esque performance tonight, Phil.
Yeah, but also, I mean, some of that possession, it's sideways passes, and if they obviously don't have their full strength team tonight, Slovakia, so if they're trying to stick to their game plan and play possession, that does leave them vulnerable for pressing. So, I mean, that front three that we mentioned, the likes of Connolly and Robinson, would obviously give you that energy to put players under pressure, and that's obviously, the higher up the pitch you dispossess them, then obviously you're straight in on goals. So I think Ireland will be quite happy to let Slovakia have the ball in their own half, but there will be certain trigger points when certain balls are played into areas of the pitch where the Ireland players will be expected to press, and that's where the energy that we were missing in those two games in September will be crucial tonight. Matt Doherty obviously did the press conference yesterday, said he was absolutely shattered after those, or during those games. So, it's very hard to implement that system obviously in such a short space of time, but also basically not being able to go full tilt. So Stephen Kenny can now say to his players, right lads, you're up to fitness, I'm expecting full tilt, and do you know what, if you gas, we've got 5 substitutes, you got to let me know and I'll replace you with more energy. So it's going to be very important what he does with the bench, and obviously you have to see how the game plays out, because it's very dangerous to try and hold players back thinking this is how the game might play out, but we don't know, because there is obviously VAR tonight as well, so it's going to just make for a very interesting game. But I'm certainly feeling a lot more confident than I was a few days ago, given the absentees in the Slovakia side.
Yeah, how hard did you celebrate that last night, Nathan?
The news that Skriniar was out in Slovakia. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Skriniar. I'm surprised he hasn't gone somewhere over the last couple of years, and he is a key to them keeping possession, because he's one of the best ball-playing centre halves around. So it's got to be a boost. Because we're not there and we're not getting a sense of what the attitude on the ground of Slovakia is, like if this was an Irish team that were suddenly been shorn of some of our star players because of COVID, we'd be talking about a backs to the wall job, about the players fighting for their lives, about the opportunity that's there in a playoff. And I'd imagine that's how Slovakia are going to approach this, that it's a one-off tie, it's a cup semi-final, and actually it's a bit of a blood and guts game. And that's what I'm expecting tonight. I'm not really expecting the Stephen Kenny style. Okay, I think it'll be an attempt to get the ball down and do the right thing. But he's had no time. He has had no time. This is a bonus for Stephen Kenny, which I think is how he's approached this since the start of, as Phil said right at the start of this, if they can win tonight, if they can somehow qualify, he's flying for the next few years. But if they were to lose, I think people need to realise he hasn't had any time with these players at all to get his message properly across.
Okay. Hang on. You're asking people, not to people. That's what you're asking.
I'm asking.
You're asking people not.
What?
You're asking people, not to people. People does be people, Nathan. We all know that. Football fans
he's going to get criticism. He's going to get criticism. Of course he is. But I think you need to look at it in terms of the overall style. It was always going to be a bit of a long-term project, with signs even in that first game against Bulgaria that things were changing. But this is a game of knockout football where he has barely had a session all week with the players. So I think we need to take that into account. And I think we will end up in a little bit probably in the second half of a old-fashioned Irish performance of getting players fighting for their lives, scrapping it out and trying to get the result.
Shane Duffy is auxiliary number 10.
Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised to see it at all.
I think as well, what you want to see tonight is a team that's proactive and not reactive. And I always felt under Martin O'Neill, where when we went behind, that's when you started to see it was like, well, where was this energy and where was this pace and urgency at the start of the game? We almost kind of wait for the thing to happen to concede that goal, and then all of a sudden we come to life. So why not start on the front foot? And look, if they have more possession, that's fine. Like, I'm not saying we have to pass them off the park, but also you mentioned Shane Duffy there. We know the threat he has from set pieces, and just looking at Slovakia, they mark zonely from set pieces, so maybe that is something that, you know, if Shane Duffy gets a run, there's nobody stopping him. So it could be the classic Shane Duffy set piece and a few bits of magic in there from players like Aaron Connolly and Callum Robinson, and we get the win, and I'd be happy enough with that.
Well, I think anybody's going to be happy with any kind of win. If we scratch through on penalties and qualify for the Euros by way of a postponement or a forfeiture in the next game, like, better be a lucky manager than a good manager at this stage of his international career. Talk to me, Phil, though, on the other side of it. If you're Slovakia and you're looking at the Ireland team, what are you saying? The points you were making about them, what points are they making about us, and how are they going to, if they are a team who controls the ball against us tonight and makes us run around chasing our tails?
I think they're looking at space in behind our fullbacks, because, as I said at the start, that we've got two fullbacks who are accustomed to going forward, and okay, they come back, but they don't have that massive defensive responsibility. And when you look at Enda Stevens and Matt Doherty play for their clubs, okay, I'm talking more as Doherty now as the Wolves version. Obviously, he has to adapt to life at Spurs, but when they play in that wing-back role, they're pretty much out in the touchline, and, you know, they're in advanced positions, whereas now they're going to have to be deeper, they're going to have to be a bit tighter to their centre halves. So if they have those habits of kind of drifting out wide, then there will be space there. And Slovakia will be looking at somebody as well like James McCarthy, who, you know, is more than capable of passing the ball, but maybe he's not always that comfortable doing it. So if he's getting the ball off Shane Duffy or John Egan and he turns, that is when, if he takes that extra touch,
press, that's
when Slovakia will be looking to hit him. And you know, if he is caught in possession, then we're in serious trouble, because, you know, they're straight in, and that's certainly one area they'll be looking at. Certain players they will have targeted, where they'll think, you know, they do press. The way they, obviously the group they were in, Croatia and Wales were in their qualifying group for the last campaign, and it was noticeable against Croatia. They didn't press as much because they would have probably respected Croatia a lot more, being a technically better side than the likes of Wales or us. So they will think that they can get at us and they can dispossess us, and yeah, that will be a slight concern for me, where just don't get caught in the ball in midfield. If it has to go out wide, just do it quickly, and I'm sure that's going to be the message from Stephen Kenny.
Nathan, where do you think they'll attack us tonight?
Yeah, I think if we go with three in midfield, they'll definitely look to get at McCarthy. They'll have watched that Bulgaria game and realised, you know, he finds himself quite isolated at times. I think they are going to be trying to shut up shop a little bit here and keep it very, very tight with the players they're missing, with an awful lot of their players not playing much football, with Marek Hamsik over in China and nobody really knowing, it seems, reading little bits about Slovakia over the last few days, that they weren't quite sure what sort of state he was going to be coming back in. So I think they're going to be concentrating a lot on themselves and trying to keep this as tight as possible, making sure they don't, as Phil says, concede from set pieces. But the opportunity will be either McCarthy or the two wing-backs. If they can somehow suck Stevens and Doherty forward. It was the one thing against Bulgaria, as much as there was some bright signs in both games, like these massive gaps that Ireland are pushing plenty of men into the opposition half. So if you sit back, there's huge opportunities on the counter-attack from what we've seen, basing it on two matches, albeit players not fully fit, Nations League games. Like, that's where teams will see the opportunity now, I think, is actually sitting back against Ireland, letting them have a little bit of the ball in and around the halfway line. And then if they lose it, going on the counter as quick as you can. That's what worked for Bulgaria. That's what worked for Finland. They both got countless opportunities through that. So Ireland need to be very, very careful. You can't commit that many men forward if you're not going to keep a hold of the ball.
Dave B comments, says, I love Vinnie Perth's analysis, very detailed. Ireland win on penalties, another the nation holds its breath moment, not COVID related finally. Out on a win
we
for
haven't had a penalty since we haven't had a penalty shootout since 2002.
Can you honestly pick me 5 penalty takers for Ireland where you would be very confident that they're going to score?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Phil, because I've been doing my penalty research over the last 24 hours.
I didn't know at this point.
Matt Doherty last night said, I've been practicing penalties for the last 2 weeks. Put me in, boss. Yeah. Matt Doherty, from what I can tell, hasn't taken a penalty since 2012 when he scored for Bury against Southend in the second round of the FA Cup. So, but Matt has put himself forward. Shane Duffy was playing for Northern Ireland the last time he scored a penalty. For the Northern Ireland under-19s in Bosnia 11 years ago. Egan, Stevens and McCarthy never taken a penalty. Conor Howerhan used to take them all the time for Barnsley, but he missed his last one in 2016. Jeff Hendrick never taken one. It gets a bit better, though. Dave McGoldrick was Sheffield United's penalty taker in the Championship, but he missed his last one a couple of years ago and never got back on. James McLean and Shane Long both scored penalties the last time we played Slovakia in a friendly. So if they're on the pitch, you'd imagine. Robbie Brady used to take penalties. He obviously scored his last... he scored that goal against France, so you'd imagine if he's on the pitch, he would take one as well. Aaron Connolly, never taken one in senior football, but he did score against Slovakia for the Irish under-19s.
Ooh, I remember Connolly.
From a penalty.
Didn't Connolly miss a penalty for the under-21s in that Sweden game away from home? Sorry,
so he's taken four. He's taken four that I have records of, and he's missed 3 of them. But the one he scored was against Slovakia.
That's not a good record.
Has Darren Randolph taken one, Nathan?
Sit down. It's okay. Don't worry about this. We've got you.
Well, I was before the last game, the home game against Finland. You end up going down these wormholes when you start on stats, and I cannot find. And if there's a listener who can correct me on this, it's not relevant for tonight. But there's no record ever of an Irish goalkeeper saving a penalty at Lansdowne Road, ever. It just never happened. But Darren Randolph obviously did save one this time last year against Switzerland in the game, which was a bit of a nightmare. So. I think Randolph is fairly decent on that side of things, but we don't have a lot of players who are taking penalties.
Jack Byrne
at club level. Jack Byrne, obviously, if he was on the pitch, if he makes the squad, will be in there. And Adam Ida, when he scored that hat trick for Norwich against Preston in the FA Cup, the last of his goals for the hat trick was a penalty.
Phil, we're going to let you go now, but before we do, give us tomorrow's headline today.
I can't come up with a quirky headline, because my brain's not functioning right now. But I actually think Ireland will get the job done within 90 minutes. So maybe they'll go with something like, can we do it? You know,
yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Something simple like that.
It'll be either, here's to you, Mr. Robinson, when Callum scores the winner. Or if it's Aaron Connolly puts us in front, Adam Ida comes off the bench and scores the winner, it'll be, Kenny's kids are all right.
Or... if Connolly scores the winner, which myself and Shane Hannon are predicting, King Con.
Oh, yeah.
Or it'll just be disaster. Block cap, disaster.
A long winter.
It didn't go according to plan.
Phil, good stuff. Thanks for that. France says, I'm a bit surprised that Ireland are favourites to beat Slovakia. I think they weren't until the news came through of all the players that Slovakia are now not going to be able to select because of COVID. Kevin says, I think 3 at the back would be a good choice because you can play Doherty as a wing-back. He's played that at Wolves and scored goals and set them up with Egan and centre-back, and Steve as a left wing-back and have more options in midfield. I think we all think that we have 2 good wing-backs and we have 3 good defenders and probably loads more who can fill in if injuries happen. And that might be something that allows our best midfielder to thrive. So it was really interesting hearing Vinnie Perth say everything is on the table on the basis of the players that are available, when he was talking about a little bit earlier on. Stuart, I think, has sent us the most Ireland supporter football tweet of all time. Keep it tight for the first 20 and see what they're about. No need to start off with wing-backs. He can change that during the game depending on how we settle. Whatever you do, don't take a risk.
Keep it tight.
See what they're about. What are Slovakia about? That is a thing that will become apparent after about 20 minutes or so. Like, I mean, just to go back to the question I put to you a moment ago, Nathan. Like, I mean, the instant reaction to last night's news around Slovakia is to say, God, it's terrible, and we'd prefer a level playing field. But outside of Marek Hamšík, they are missing their 3 most recognisable players. Like, this is up there, if not a more significant setback for an Ireland opponent, as Gareth Bale missing in Cardiff 3 years ago, is it not?
Yeah, because it's right through the spine of their team as well. And it does increase the pressure a little bit because you're taking out such a talented side that, the odds have already swung on this. So, yeah, there is no excuses. I think going into this, we probably thought it was a 50-50 game away from home, whereas now when they are missing so many players. But I'd imagine they're going to close our ranks. They're going to do those traditional things and say this is still that opportunity that we have to go and get ourselves to a playoff final. Let's keep it tight. Let's keep it very close. I'd be interested to see if this game is reflective of what we've seen from the rest of football since the restart. Like, maybe it ends up being a little bit more open. Like, the one thing when you watch Ireland is we don't create many chances. It's something Stephen Kenny has pointed out a few times that, like our starting 11 tonight are going to have scored very few goals between them in all likelihood. Like, probably less than 10 between the entire starting 11. But Stephen Kenny would say, but they're not missing chances. They're not actually creating chances. So is there shackles are off, no crowd in the stadium, energy levels are right? Are we going to see something like we've seen in the Premier League where players are taking a few more chances? Players are... Callum Robinson in those positions where he scores against Chelsea can now do that in a green jersey as well. So maybe we get a slightly different game than we're used to in international football, because I'd imagine the vast majority of predictions tonight in the papers are 1-1 or 1-0 or 2-1 either way. It'd be great to get something different. It'd be great to get a game that actually gets us excited about Irish football. And there's a big opportunity here with the way of the world right now, and I think the general state of depression that the entire country is in, for the Irish team to step up now and have a final to look forward to next month in Bosnia or in Northern Ireland would be a huge thing for this group of players, and will give them an opportunity to sort of get themselves front and centre that they haven't had for quite a while.
It's the biggest sporting night of the year, and hopefully the second biggest sporting night of the year. And given the week that we've had, I mean, it would genuinely... it would lift the mood of a lot of people anyway. Like, I hate that phrase of like the nation and all that, but in terms of lifting the mood of some people, it will actually have a material impact.
Yeah, like, come on, it's like, game. Yeah, like, no, you're right. It's trite, it's hokey, but it's true.
It's true. Yeah, it kind of is. Like, I mean, like, I don't know, especially if it's back-to-back wins. And
so what? Life is hokey, said Anthony Hopkins.
All of a sudden, we might have something to look forward to next summer. Like, even if it's behind closed doors, like, even if we're, like, I don't know, we're still living in a world of social distancing, and it's still a massive thing to look forward to next year. We don't get these too often. It's like, nobody needs telling them how massive this is. And still, it'll be in an empty stadium over there, so you will have the usual weirdness that goes with these empty stadium games.
Yeah, I did wonder, was that part of the reason for the sort of what feels like a very low-key build-up? Obviously, we had such a crazy weekend of Premier League that dominates probably into Tuesday. There's nobody working over at the match, so you're not getting any sort of sense on the ground. There's no supporters there. But also, what I do feel it would be a boost to everybody for Ireland to win. Ordinarily, we'd be planning. Like, we'd be thinking, where are we going next summer? Where are we getting to Bilbao? Booking the flights. Whereas that's not there. I don't think anybody realistically feels that we're going to have a packed Aviva Stadium next summer for these games, unfortunately.
The Basque Country has more Michelin stars per capita than any other part of the world. Think of all the stuff that we're missing out on here.
I remind myself every day of all the things I'm missing out on, Ger.
Well, that's like top of my list right now today. Right, it is 10 o'clock. Nathan, good stuff. Give me your prediction.
Ireland 2-0.
Right, that will be very, very good indeed. You can hear the game live this evening on Off the Ball on News Talk. You can get that on the OTB Sports app. But that is our lot today.